Welcome back to the Sundaypuncher podcast. We've come back. We're back for another episode, and we want to start by thanking you guys for listening. Thank you guys for your feedback, and you'll find out tonight if it made or today if it made any difference. We're recording this. It's the morning time here in LA, in California. Simon and Jason are freezing on whatever coast that they live on, and it's Super Bowl Sunday, and neither of these guys are really interested or care.
Yeah,
That's the
I got
truth.
the excuse of being British and American football not being huge here, although I will be watching it.
I use the excuse of not being a football fan while living in America, and but I'll watch it.
Oh, you will?
Yeah, I'll probably watch it tonight. Yeah, most likely.
All right. All right, guys. Well, there is no other place that we should start this than the obvious, and that is that Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. And if you guys don't know how things have gone so far, here's what happened last week. So TMZ came out with a report on Friday that said that the fight was officially on. Now, within 30 minutes, Steven Espinoza, the president of Showtime Sports, tweeted out that TMZ was wrong. Dan Raphael confirmed it. TMZ updated their article to note that they'd only agreed on the fight and location. A bunch of other writers who are respected in the industry came out and said, no, there's still issues that are up. Bernard Hopkins even tweeted out he has no clue what's going on. Floyd Mayweather himself, he spoke and said the fight is not made yet. He said a lot of other things, but the point is the fight was not made yet. So I wanted to talk about the most important thing, which is the latest update. Floyd Mayweather posted on his Facebook account a video of a snowball fight with Jay Leon Love.
Is it like when did he do that? When was that? Was that today?
It was last night that it was posted up.
So is that like a analogy to there's a snowball's chance in hell that fight is being made, or what do you what do you think the significance of that is?
Wow, this just turned into a literature podcast. You know,
maybe he didn't put that much thought into it. I don't know.
Floyd Mayweather?
Yeah. What do you think the point of that?
Simon, why didn't you go first?
I'm not sure what to make of anything that's gone on this week on that. I keep having people come up to me and tell me that the fight's definitely happening and that I'm an idiot and that it's definitely going down. And it's happening again. I feel like we got really good at ignoring them until they get something done. But I don't know. It's ever since I don't know what the catalyst was, but the last 6 to 8 weeks, it's suddenly just gone crazy again on all the spurious reporting of it. I don't know what the catalyst is. I wonder if it had anything to do with Khan coming back and being more visible, but who knows?
Khan coming back. Say more about that.
Well, he looked really impressive against a somewhat legitimate opponent. It looked like it was like, I'm back, baby, because he'd been away for so long and not really been active. I wonder whether him getting some attention on the scene had pressured the various promotional companies involved with Mayweather and Pacquiao's camp to say, look, Khan's getting some attention and stuff. We've got to drive the narrative back to you guys and sort of bully his pressure out so that he can't make any big demands for fights. And that if he does get one, he'll be the solid B-side, even though that would never be up for the debate, really. It would just weaken his position. I wonder whether it's more of an offensive.
That's an interesting take on it. I'm not sure.
It's a tough one, isn't it, to prove causation?
Yeah. I'm gonna just say I'm not. I would think it maybe has more to do with. I saw a lot of hype for the fight to begin with Manny's movie coming out. So there was a ton of reporting just about Manny at all these different press events on television in the States and everything.
And this is the easiest way for him to get people talking about him and his
exactly
and whatever he's promoting or pushing, the Mayweather fight.
So I feel like
that's true.
That kind of pushed, that kind of drove a lot of it as well.
I suppose as well we've had Oscar talking about Canelo Cotto, and that's probably put some pressure on as well. So it's like there's a few different angles that have all coincided.
Yeah, and it just seems like maybe we're not as close as everybody wants us to be.
How has this
Because,
happened again? It feels like we're
yeah.
back a few years ago, and we're falling for the same things we started falling for back then. I thought we'd got out of it, but obviously
I,
not.
I mean, as Angelo said a couple times now, is that like, yeah, as any boxing fan would know, it would be May 2nd at the MGM Grand. That's not
Yeah,
news. Like,
yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, so most fans probably out there listening don't want to hear what we just said, which is the fact that the fight may not be close and it might not actually be something that actually is even going to happen. But I'm going to take the other side and you guys tell me if I'm crazy. So I
go ahead.
think that the fight is actually close. And I've been a firm non-believer in this fight since 2010. I figured if it didn't happen the first time, it's never going to happen. The hurdles seemed too big then, and I think the hurdles come down now. And I think the main thing which leads me to believe that this fight is on is that meeting in Miami, which I dismissed at first, but I think in that meeting, there's something in Mayweather's eyes where he's looking at Manny, and it reminded me of this isn't really completely fit. A few years ago, there's two basketball players, one guy on the Lakers, one guy on the Clippers. It was a really tall 7-footer versus a short little 6-foot bulldog, and I forgot what he did, but the big guy patted the little guy on the head, trying to sun him, and the little guy got pissed off, and they started trying to go at it. Now, what reminded me of that though was that Mayweather was looking at Pacquiao, and in the conversation that they had, and I'm totally turning this back into the literature podcast, he was, you could just see something in his eyes where he was like, "This guy's little. This is going to be easy. I'm just going to go in there and whoop on him, and there's nothing this guy can really do to me." That's one side of it. The other side is that I think Mayweather told Pacquiao, this fight is not going to happen if Bob Arum's involved. And what he really means by that is Arum and him are never going to see eye to eye, and he knows that. And because of that, that's not going to happen. But where the fight can actually happen is when you bring in the big guns, the network executives to handle the negotiation of the fight. And now we have Leslie Moonves, I don't know how to say your name, Al
Yeah,
Heyman. You have Steven Espinoza. You have, I forgot the guy from HBO's name. Is it Greenberg or Hirschman? One of them. You have these guys dealing with the fight. And here's where the fight's going to get made. And this is also where it's going to die because you have networks trying to work out things like I think you were telling me earlier in the week, Jason, and I would completely hadn't thought of it, but the replay. Who's going to get the
yeah,
replay?
right. There's the biggest stumbling blocks are going to be these network issues. Like this is almost bigger than boxing promoters of Arum. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
this fight is bigger than
that
that. And you're
completely
right.
sums up what I was trying to say. It's bigger
Yeah,
than the promoters.
it's bigger than the promoters, and you need people like you said, Les Moonves, Heyman, Hershman from HBO to really get on the same page. Get those guys in a room, and things are the wheels are going to turn on this fight. It's too big of an event.
And there's a
That's
lot
where
of
I
money
stand
that
on.
comes from them.
Oh, there's a ton of money coming from them, and so there's the replay rights. There's who's doing the all access, who's doing the 24/7, who's gonna all that promotional build up stuff. There's a lot of those intricacies that would need to be worked out before the fight could be made. So I mean, the whole concept of both fighters agreeing to the fight, yeah, they've agreed, but that there's still roadblocks outside of agreeing to the fight.
Yeah, on something of this magnitude, it's going to be a lot harder than to just say two fighters agree. This isn't Chris Algieri versus Terrence Crawford.
Right,
Mm.
right.
Yeah,
So
it's just a weird one because I've started feeling like it could happen, but I wonder
Yeah.
if I just got like Stockholm syndrome by this point and I'm just falling for it all over again.
Well, I
I,
told Angelo earlier in the week, I'm like, I've got a really good feeling about this. And
I
then,
know.
and
What's
then
wrong with us? We're
I know.
idiots. Like,
Who
how
are
are
we?
we
Like,
falling for this?
it's like we know better than this. You know?
it's like you hear about those girls who they're in these relationships with these guys, and the guys hit them, and then they say never again, never again. I'm not going to be with this guy, and then they go right back to him.
Yep. Yeah, that's this fight for boxing fans. Yeah.
Yep, and we just keep getting beat up
Yeah.
And
But we keep asking for more.
yeah, because we are waiting for that one day when they really change. And in this situation, when they really do fight.
Yeah.
And look, it would be best for everybody involved if they actually did fight. Like, it would actually be best for everybody involved if that guy did change. But it's going to take a lot. And
Yeah.
it's more than just them agreeing, like, yeah, we want to fight each other.
Do you think
They
there's any
wanted to fight.
likelihood of the networks just splitting down the middle and they both sell it like pay-per-view? They both have the replays simultaneously with equal rights.
That's what I would think would be the smartest solution, is they do the joint pay-per-view and then they both have rights to the fight afterwards, you know? But I'm sure somebody wants to make it proprietary. Somebody wants it to be
Oh, everyone
theirs,
wants it,
you
yeah.
know? So it just, the concept of them being on different networks just completely complicates everything. But again, back to like these big wigs, right? Like the Moonves and stuff. He sees dollar signs, like, so. I think they're gonna kind of not move heaven and earth, but they're gonna, do everything that they can to get this fight to be made
Yeah,
because of how much income it can actually generate for these networks.
I think
In the
at some
initial
point
fight and ongoing.
they'll need to bite the bullet, and having, even if they only get 20% of the revenue, 20% of a massive fight is better than 100% of a non-existent one.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they're
think-
going to have to give concessions. They're going to have to concede to some things to the other network, which is going to be tough to do. But that's what's going to really need to happen.
See, and here, so the first negotiation was difficult because you were dealing with the fighters as personalities. Mayweather believing one set of things and Pacquiao believing another set of things. And since now that those have been worked out, now we're dealing with networks and what they believe. And they Showtime has a really good case right here. And I don't want to get too caught up in this, but Showtime has a really good case to say, look, Mayweather is the attraction here. Mayweather is going to get the bigger cut here. Why are we going to concede anything to HBO? They could say, you guys might have more subscribers, but we will air this on CBS on replay if we have to.
Right, and more subscribers is irrelevant because anybody could buy a pay-per-view, whether you're signed up for HBO or Showtime.
Oh, see, look,
Anyways.
that's a good point on airing the pay-per-view. I think the pay-per-view is going to be a joint thing where
Right.
it's 50-50, but afterwards, the replays and the
Oh,
pre-fight
yeah,
build-up,
yeah.
that's going to
Okay.
be the real trouble.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we've exhausted this topic, or we can spend the next hour talking about it. We can get into the technical things. We can
No.
No?
No,
You guys don't want to do that?
This is a horse. This is a horse that died 6 years ago, and we're still beating it.
There's hope that this horse will come back to
Moving
life.
on.
There's hope that we could shock it back to life. But we'll see.
Well, here's something that was pretty shocking, and that was that Tony Lewis. I don't think it was that shocking to some people, but Tony Lewis went in there and he conclusively beat Karl Dargan, a rising prospect with main events who was undefeated and was coming off of a couple of knockout wins. Tony Lewis went in there and looked like Roberto Duran on the inside. Go ahead, Jason.
Tony Lewis.
What did you see?
Tony Lewis did a number on him. From what I've seen, I watched some highlights of the fight and then read about it. And I've seen Lewis fight a couple times. I did think Dargan would win, but he was just really able to pressure Dargan, and Dargan just couldn't handle it. And Lewis's shots that he was landing were just so flush and clean.
Which is not an accident.
Right.
I think Dargan did something in the fourth round, and what he did was he basically made the decision that Tony Lewis is going to be able to fight however he wants, and I'm going to counter him from there. But that never seems to work. It never seems to work when you say, okay, I'm going to let him do what he wants and fight him from there. It was almost like he just gave up his game plan. And that's when Tony Lewis really took over that fight. He dropped him in the second or third round. That was a slip.
Slip, yeah.
But at that point, Dargan was not in that fight anymore.
Right. When he tried to fight Lewis's fight, but it just didn't work. Lewis fought Lewis's fight and was extremely conclusive.
Yeah, Lewis looked really good. And I actually thought he looked really good against Ivan Redkach. Or
Yeah, so did I. That was the other fight that I had seen of him. Was the Red Cat fight, which was that part of Boxino last year, or just maybe
no,
it
it
was
was a
just then
Showbox card back
a
in
showbox card?
January, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Lewis is really good. And the question now I have is the lightweight division's pretty wide open. And Lewis is a legitimate contender now. You cannot make a case for him not being in the top 10. At least that's as far as I think. Now, we had another lightweight fight this weekend in Kevin Mitchell and Juan Estrada, where Kevin Mitchell looked he he looked like Mayweather in the Corrales fight. He was throwing lead uppercuts
Lead uppercuts, I know.
and landing them. He wasn't switching stances, but he kind of was when he was throwing those punches too. Mitchell destroyed Estrada, and it was like a real systematic beatdown.
Estrada looked every bit of his 29 years old too. Like he caught, not to take away from Mitchell, but like Estrada was just catching every punch. And I know he's not the most, defensive minded fighter, but man, he was just getting lit up left and right.
Yeah, it had a hard paper round, didn't he? He I don't know. I think it's easy to think that Kevin Mitchell only looked good because of how, I don't know, shot Estrada was looking, but I think it's a bit more than that. I think Kevin Mitchell's, I don't know, he's definitely going to be a strong fringe contender, I think, for that division.
Wow, shots fired.
Who do you think? Who do you see really, troubling him?
Let me just make one correction before I answer that question. His name's Daniel Estrada, not Juan Estrada. Not every Mexican fighter's name is Juan. Secondly, I think right now Mitchell troubles Ray Beltran. I don't think he beats him, but he troubles him. I think he's competitive, and that's the only thing I'm gonna say about these fights is that Mitchell can be competitive. That he will be in every fight, so he will be in the fight with Ray Beltran. I think he's in a fight with Mickey Bay. Actually, he might beat Mickey Bay. Omar Figueroa, that would be a war, but I think Figueroa can wear him down as the fight progresses.
Yeah.
But Mitchell was really surprised this weekend, and I saw a lot of things from him that I haven't seen. And Eddie Hearn was absolutely right when he said, "This is the best Kevin Mitchell I've ever seen." And when he's like this, he's tough to beat.
Mm.
He might have said
he's
it a
on
little
an
more
upswing now.
promoter way.
So, detracting from that a moment and going back to Lewis, what do you see Lewis doing next?
That's a good question. I think Deary Jean in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
I totally agree. That was my suggestion as well.
Yeah.
It's so both. Deary Jean looked. He did not look good against Lamont Peterson,
and less than exceptional, didn't he?
Yeah.
And in his last couple of fights, he's won both by knockout. There's just something missing there, though. There's like there's something special that tells you that this guy's a title contender. And he's never had a title. He's always been what we would call a domestic champion at best.
Yeah.
And I think Tony Luis is at that point where he's ready to break from that. And what better way to test it than a guy who's really proved himself that not only is he tough, but he is like that caliber of fighter.
Yeah, that's it. It's someone to earn your stripes against. It's not someone that's going to give you the hardest fight of your career, but it's definitely someone that's going to see whether you pass the mark or not.
Yeah, it would make for a great domestic level event. That would be a good fight in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another thing. I don't know if this can actually work out with the promoters. Deary Jean is a Canadian of Haitian descent. That's a phenomenal card. If you can put on Stevenson versus Beterbiev later on in the year with Jean and Luis in the undercard.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I don't know all of their allegiances and promotional hang-ups, but if it can all work, that would be a good one.
Yeah, that's one of the best cards you can put on. You have an undercard it's a legitimate like traditional undercard fight where it's not like Garcia Matisse. Is two guys looking to in their next fight be in a main event fight.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And I think if Luis is hoping to get a title, his best shot is fighting Linares. Who
do you think that'll go well for him?
That's what I was thinking. Linares is that could be tricky.
It could be. There's a couple of things though. One, Linares does not do well to pressure fighters who like to fight inside. The other thing is that Linares' face is like one step below Gabriel Rosado's. If Luis can do what he did to Dargan for half of the fight, that makes the last 3 rounds very interesting.
Fair enough. I would have thought it was more one-sided, but you've convinced me. I'm sold.
Jorge Linares, who I really like, and I think he looks great in every single fight except the ones he loses, I think is, if we were to make a list of the top 10 fool's gold fighters in the sport, Linares is on that list.
Right, because he could look so fluid and just fantastic, but when he's winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as he's got his legs. Now, when his legs go, I mean, he's been knocked out in the first round before, in the second round before. DeMarco stopped him late in a fight where Linares should have coasted to victory. Yeah, so
going back to Britain as well, though. What's Kevin Mitchell? You know, if you're him, where are you going to be looking? Because I think he needs to be setting his sights somewhat higher.
You're not going to like this answer.
Go on.
He actually, the answer is that he has his sights on Linares. But I think he goes after, he says, Eddie Hearn, I want the winner of Coyle and Campbell.
Wow, why? Why would you possibly want that?
Well, I'm just curious. How come you said that? How come you said it like that?
I don't know. It's just he's come off this really impressive looking win, and I don't know. I think he can set higher. I don't know. I feel like if I'm him, I want to try and build a US audience and maybe try someone like Bay.
Bay's not touching Mitchell. Let's start there.
Well, do you think not? Because Bay wants to win back some legitimacy, and that'd be a good way to do it, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. Beating a guy like Kevin Mitchell adds a massive amount of credibility to Bay, who is lacking right now in that regard.
Yeah, so that's why I think he might take it. If he had his pick of the litter, it wouldn't be his top fight. I agree, but where he needs to do something to get back in the driver's seat, so to speak, and I think that would be a good one.
If you're Hearn, what do you want him to do? You have Krolla, you have the winner of Coyle and Campbell, or do you send him to another country to fight whoever?
I think to another country to fight whoever, because it would be a massive risk-reward problem to fight someone like Krolla, because the draw would be largely domestic. I don't think it would be one that the rest of the world would be itching to see. And why would you risk someone that's on this big upswing by taking a huge step down and fighting a limited audience fight?
I absolutely agree. I just want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, and I'd say the same about Campbell.
Well, Campbell beats Mitchell.
I think Campbell beats most people at the top 10, to be honest.
Yeah, but
yeah, he's good.
Yeah, not too many people are on that one yet.
No, he'll start to emerge, and people will realize that he's legit. That boy's special.
Speaking of, did you see Anthony Joshua ringside? He was working as an analyst for Sky.
How was he?
He looked like the next James Bond.
They always dress really nice though on Sky. They're always in the suits.
AJ's a cool customer as well.
Yeah,
he looked definitely pull that off.
He looked like 007. He looked, this is my take from it. I think AJ was trying to hold back a smile most of the time. He just seems like one of those guys that's a cheery guy most of the time.
Yeah.
And they told him, like, AJ, we're trying to sell you up as, the next heavyweight champion. Could you not smile so much?
Yeah. I think if they want to promotionally build AJ to be this like fearsome person that's a menace, you're onto a loser there, because he's just so lovely. I can't see how they're going to promote him that way.
He's just too happy to be where he's at. It seems like,
guy.
Right? He's psyched about boxing. He's psyched about where his professional development's going. So like, you're not going to be able to get that smile off his face. You need to promote him differently. Yeah, he's not going to be that guy. He's going to be the guy that people are going to rally behind because he's nice.
Yeah, and like Golovkin, nice with a killer edge in the ring, and I think
Yeah.
that's what really sets the smile guys. And Pacquiao, to an extent, he did that. That's
Hmm.
how he actually mostly caught on in America. Is he had that edge in the ring and that smile outside of it.
Mm.
If he could match, though, he was actually really good. He had a lot of really good points. One of the way he speaks about the fighters too in a really respectful way. Even John Ryder, he talked about him like he was his little brother.
Mm.
If he can match his ring talent with his analyst talent, you know, AJ is going to be the next dual threat, the next best dual threat since Andre Ward. And if he keeps getting injured, this will be very similar.
Yeah, I think with the injury one, people blow it out of proportion because at the end of the day, people are forgetting that he's a prospect. He's building his record up. You don't take crazy fights if you're injured. He can afford to lay off a fight and take another one in a few weeks' time. And heavyweights, just in general, get injured a lot. I think people are just putting focus on AJ because they want to see him fight, and he's just not taking these fights if he's not 100%, which is smart. I think there's a lot of prospects to get injured and do this sort of thing, but because they haven't got the same level of excitement and following that AJ has, it puts more sort of pressure on it and makes it feel like they're bigger and more frequent.
Yeah, he actually addressed the injuries too last night for you. It was in the
Hmm.
daytime for me. He said, "Look, I'm a big guy, and us big guys, we have big muscles. And
Mm.
when you have all this mass, things tend to go wrong more so than, if you're a little guy." Which
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but the trend seems to be that is true.
Yeah. Yeah, heavyweights get bust up more, definitely. You see it all the time in all levels, from prospect right up to world champions.
Yeah.
They get injured more. Fights have to get delayed here and there, and it's fine. There's people saying, "Oh, he's getting injured quite a bit. That's going to be worrying," and it's fine. It's not a problem.
And, if you want to get injured, the easiest way to get injured is to sign a fight for Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
That seems to work.
the universe makes sure that can't go down.
So the
Yeah.
other thing that you mentioned, Simon, is that it's going to just be a couple weeks because he's still fighting a prospect schedule. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah, that's really true.
he's fighting often. So if he has to pull out of a fight here and there, that's going to be okay. But it's just
Mm.
that limelight is focused so intently on him because, he's, so popular at this point that
Yeah.
it just exemplifies everything that goes wrong. It's
Yeah,
like he's
and
under
don't
a
get me wrong.
microscope.
When he
Yeah.
pulls out, I'm gutted. I've been on the AJ hype train. Like, I'm driving that train. I got my train driver's hat
Yeah.
on. I'm pulling the whistle. Like, that's my thing. So I'm mortified when he doesn't fight because it's really depressing. But at the same time, I understand it, and it doesn't bother me or fill me with any concern.
He's so you're on his hype train. It's pretty
Yeah.
early at this point. Um, it's pretty early, so you definitely get your conductor's hat on. But how is he going to break over into mainstream and a mainstream American audience? And do you think, in order to be a super successful heavyweight champion, does he need to break over into the American mainstream, or can he
Yes.
stay?
No,
Yeah.
I think he can. And if Vlad's proved anything to anyone who's taking notes, it's that you can be as dominant as you like and demand everyone comes fight you in your home turf, but you will forever in legacy be remembered as someone who's less than great. So if you're looking to build a legacy and reputation, it does look like you've got to be fighting people within the US to get those US fights going. Because if AJ were to become sort of lineal at heavyweight and got everyone fighting in the UK all the time, I think people would start detracting from him, even though he'd be, a fantastic champion. So yeah, I do think he is going to cross over. I think his likability and his impressiveness is going to make him very easy to sell to the US market when the time comes. Especially with the US heavyweight scene starting to bubble back up, I think that he'd be silly not to go and make friends with some of them in the not too distant future.
Yeah, that's a really common criticism of the British fighters, and it's an easy way to cut them down and to undermine them is to say, well, they don't go outside of Britain.
Mm.
Right. Well, when they're on the domestic scene, it's it's tough for an American audience to A, see them, or B, understand what the level of competition that they're fighting is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. There's no benchmark.
There's no benchmarks, exactly. So you kind of have to come over. But why? What do you? What exactly? What's the fight that's going to make him known in America?
David Hay.
I think David Hay. I think if Hay comes back and fights Wilder and wins, AJ Hay in America. I know it would make sense to do it in England, but screw it, do it in America.
So you're saying AJ Hay in America?
That would start
Yeah.
a war.
This is
if
after
here.
Hay beats Wilder. Is that what you said?
Possibly, yeah. There's a few different routes to it, but
Yeah.
I mean, AJ can fight Hay. That would be a big one. AJ could fight Wilder, or could fight someone like Stavern, or someone that he can look dominant against someone who's peripheral in America. I mean, he could do the stupid thing and take Tony Thompson, which is often suicide. But you pull that off and do that in the States, that's gonna turn some heads.
So I don't want to throw a wrench in it here, but what you're talking about, all people that are super relevant today in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
That landscape's going to change by the time he's ready for these fights, don't you think?
Yeah.
Or are you suggesting he's ready for him now?
I think he's ready for him now. I don't think they'll happen now. He still wants to prove and test some things, which is really prudent. I respect that they're doing it.
Right.
But I think that you could go wild and put him in a ridiculously hard fight, and I think sink or swim, he'd swim.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and the thing is, in 18 months' time, these people are still going to be known names and relevant. I mean, look at Hay as proof of that. He's not been out and done anything for ages, and it's still, you have people say, oh, he's going to do this, that, and the other. So I think they will still be relevant in 18 months' time. But then also, there's going to be the newer up-and-coming people that get on the scene as well. So,
Right.
Joseph Parker.
Parker,
Tyson
definitely.
Fury, Huey
if
Fury.
he's managed well and he's matched well, he's going to be a huge name. Huey Fury, I have my doubts about. Not anything to do with his skill level. He looks really interesting, but I think that he'll need someone to help him matchmake and promote, because I think that's where he's really lacking.
Oh, you don't think Frank Warren's doing a good job?
It's a shame, because I think he's going to be in Tyson's shadow, really, while Tyson's active, especially being under the same roof promotionally.
Only because Tyson's got a mouth on him. I think Huey Fury is a little more. He's actually a little more talented than Tyson.
Maybe. I don't know if we've seen enough hard tests to say that confidently, but if you want to say it looks like he might be more talented, I'd kind of go with that. Yeah.
I would say right now, because you're right about that. I would say to rephrase what I said, Huey looks like he's got a higher ceiling than Tyson.
Yeah, okay,
but that's only because Huey hasn't been matched like Tyson has. Tyson's gone in there with some real guys, and
Right.
like everybody, he struggled, except Golovkin.
Well,
yeah, and I think, I don't know. So it's a sad one for Huey. I think he's going to be someone who's less famous than their wins and skill is going to warrant. But I am excited about Parker. I think as long as he's matched intelligently, he's going to be a huge name in a year's time.
Yeah, Parker's, and he's 25. He is a baby in the heavyweight division.
I'd love to be sat here in 7 years' time, and there's been a Parker AJ trilogy of ridiculous.
The Bo Holyfield of our generation.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
And it looks like that's what we're heading to. I mean, Tyson Fury is 26, so Fury is going to be somewhere in this conversation, and Vladimir is at the end right now. I don't know how much longer he's got, and he could conceivably still fight for 3 more years and beat everybody who we've talked about right now, and we'll cry about this in 3 years.
I wouldn't even be mad. I'd enjoy that as well.
No, I mean, I would be like, well, what were we expecting? What were we expecting? We know
we
Vladimir.
Were fools.
We know what to expect. But looking at the future now, that doesn't have Vladimir Klitschko, the division opens up, and I think the talent gap is gonna shrink tremendously.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna start to have 80% of these fighters are gonna all kind of be relatively within the same level of each other, rather than just having this one dominant force over the division, and that just makes for exciting fights, because now you're getting competitive fights because everybody's kind of on that same level. But then there's probably going to be somebody who, starts to distance themselves and kind of, regain that top man spot.
Mhm.
That's going to be interesting, is to watch all these other fights happen to see who is that person that's going to come out and not replace him, but, just separate themselves from the pack.
Isn't it clear
Yeah.
that it'll be Andy Ruiz Jr.?
Well, I actually thought it was going to be Tor Hammer.
Oh, oh wow. Well, let me ask you guys a question, and I know Simon's got a really interesting perspective on this, so really I'm just setting him up. Why
I'm nervous now. What's this?
So Vladimir clinches a lot, and there's a lot of holding in his fights. Is he should we be putting the blame 100% on him? And is that gonna should we count that against him? Because we talk about him like he's so great and he's a fabulous heavyweight and whatever. But is this cheating that he's doing? Should we take some away from him? Somebody just left. They're like, you know what? Door closed. I'm out of here.
Screw this. I'm out.
You know what?
They
He
heard Vladimir
is a
Klitschko
cheater.
clinching.
They're like, he's a cheater. I'm out of here.
Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, so it's a shame. You see so much criticism for him, and it's unfortunate that his name is somewhat resemblant of the word clinch, because it sets people up with an easy slang against him. But no, it's yeah. You see, you see a lot of the fighters go in against Vlad think that their only shot is to leap in with like a lead hook or lead uppercut and then double their torso over so that he can only see the back of their head. And you see so many fighters think this is going to work for them, but when they end up with their head against his stomach, like bent down like a bull, just trying to tee off on the torso, it doesn't really leave him anything to do other than to hold you and lean on you, because you've done that. You've dived in and put your head down. What the hell else is he going to do other than let you tee off at his abdomen, which would be silly. So I think that the wild, I mean, we've seen Hay did it, we've seen Leopai did it. It's countless examples in recent matches of people doing this, where they're just leaping in, ducking their head down, and it sort of forces you to clinch. There's no real sensible thing to do at that point other than clinch, because you can't hit them because you can only get to the back of their head.
And go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, it does seem like the prototypical blueprint in his most recent fights is just to literally try to bum rush him over and over and over repetitively. It's you'd think people are going to start to at some point say, "Oh yeah, that doesn't work," and maybe
it's
go about things a little differently.
Hasn't come yet though. They still think, and I think it's partly because he's so his jab, you don't get him by that. That jab is so powerful and well established that people almost don't even consider trying to fight him on the outside. It's like the diving in strategy is not going to work, but it might be your best option still, kind of thing, where
right. Yeah.
It's the only thing that has a remote chance of getting you anywhere. But yeah, so I don't think he clinches as a game plan. It's more the counter to everyone else's game plan. Because when you see people want to fight him, in his most recent fight with Pulev, for example, Pulev was going for it and trying to box him, and you saw Klitschko box. But when you've got people that just want to dive in, you only really leave him the option of leaning and holding, because at that point there's nothing else he can do. So I don't think it's sort of fair criticism when people talk about him clinching a lot. Although the one that he does do that no one seems to criticize as much is
hold on.
Go
Let me
on.
just throw this out here before, because I like where you're going. But one other thing about that is that a lot of people, their strategy when they're fighting Klitschko is to get lucky. And we saw this. You saw Hay do this, where he would just lunge in with a big shot. And when you do that, you're out of position.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can do when you're out of position is what? Grab onto something, put yourself in a position where you can't actually be hit. Because if you do get hit when you're out of position, off balance, whatever, you're going down.
By a 250-pound person, no less.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's game over.
A pure muscle. Now, but what is the thing that you're about to say that he actually does do?
Yeah, the one that no one gives him. It's really weird. Like, the thing everyone criticizes him for I don't think it's his fault necessarily. And the thing no one seems to give him stick for that he does definitely do is he's guilty of leaving his jab overextended and sort of using it to keep the other person away with his range. So it's not jabbing, it's just stretching the arm out to hold them at bay. And the other one is holding it between their guard and then exchanging it with a right hand. So really quickly pulling the left out at the last minute that sort of as a
opening them
bookmark
up
on their face and then switching it with the right. And that's a bit naughty, and he does actually do that, but I rarely see anyone give him any stick for that bit.
It's like a gray area because I've heard them talk about it on TV, a couple of times, and it's like a really gray area. And you rarely see referees really warn guys for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really an offense that you're going to get penalized for, but he does do it. And he did it in his most recent fight, if I recall. And he holds it out there for a while.
And it is illegal. It's not penalized, but it is illegal.
Yeah, it's very disruptive to the person that he's fighting. So it's a clear thing that he uses to his advantage, and obviously it's a physicality advantage. But you're right. People complain about the clinching more, and the reason I would say that they do is because the clinching dramatically slows down the pace of the fight, whereas just holding that out doesn't necessarily change the pace that much.
It actually makes the fight better when he does that because he hits them with a punch.
Right. So it's like people are only looking at boxing as like what's giving me the most excitement, right? So
the fans thinking only of themselves.
I know. I bring this horrible point of view of where I occasionally think not just as a boxing fan about things. So I think that kind of explains what people's gripe is. They're not really, people aren't concerned with the rules. They're concerned about what gives them the most entertainment.
Yeah, the using your jab to bookmark and then switching it out for a right, it's used a lot at the minute. There's a few people even naughtier than Klitschko with that.
Like who?
you know who it is. It's Lee Selby. It's his blueprint. I tell you what, if you've never noticed this, anyone listening, go get a Lee Selby highlight reel, and I promise you're going to see dozens and dozens of left overextended jab that's just in between their guard, and the person's like, get this jab out of my face. You're not even punching at this point. Leave it there for a good 5 seconds, and then bang, switch it with the right, big heavy. And it's so dirty. I don't know why people don't criticize it or call for it more. But go and check his highlight reel. I promise you, I'm not wrong. Like it's his blueprint to every fight is hold the left out and switch it after. I don't know why he never gets called for it by any ref or fan.
I wonder
go ahead.
I wonder if like the level of competition. When the level of competition gets better, are people able to just adjust to that more, or just not let that? Like, how do you? I guess I'm trying to think as an opponent. Yeah, how do you combat that?
I don't know. It's a difficult. I suppose you have to bite their hand. Really, that's the only. No, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
It really, it really disrupts your vision, right? I mean, you have the full glove, especially if you're talking about a heavyweight glove, in your face, Yeah.
And you can't guard. So when they throw the right and switch out the way, they've got this perfect bookmark of an open to your face that you can't guard.
Yeah, and hence why it's illegal.
And if you back away, you just look like you're on the back foot and moving away because they've been aggressive. But they haven't been aggressive. They've just held their arm out.
Yeah.
And blocked your vision.
Yep.
Smothered your face with it. And I think the only strategy there when your opponent's holding his glove out like that is to bite him.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
That's actually why Maidana bit Mayweather.
Exactly.
Because Mayweather does it sometimes too.
He does, yeah. It's one that I wish that they'd be quicker at calling, because sometimes it's just a sort of to gauge the distance, and it's used sort of tactfully and with technique to it. And then there's some, Selby's probably top of the pile for just absolutely cheaply and shamefully using it to score shots.
Yeah, well, a lot of fighters do the whole kind of rangefinder thing and keep it extended to really kind of gauge that distance. Trout does that a lot too.
It's fine. When
that's fine.
That way, it's done with a sense of tact and decency.
Exactly.
But yeah, when it's just the full on, and they walk people down in that position as well.
Yeah,
Klitschko and
Selby's like Selby's terrible. He does do that a lot. I'm just thinking in my head, like, yeah, he does that a lot.
left hand extended Superman pose, and he'll just walk you into a corner, and no one's like, he's clearly pushing them at this point with his extended arm.
At least Selby's gonna hear this and he's gonna call us up.
I hope he
That's-
does. I had Ryan Walsh ahead by a round. I think at some point he's on a platform of smoke and thin like premises. At some point he's going to face someone legitimately good who's going to just embarrass him, and there'll be a whole bunch of people that are like, "Wow, what happened? Lee Selby got old overnight." No, he didn't. He just wasn't that good to begin with.
No, I've never been you're not as high as on Selby as I am. But I'm not high on him at all. I don't think Selby's a world level fighter.
Mm.
I do think he's pretty talented though, and I think he's the British featherweight champion right now, and he has an international belt with the WBC. He's really climbing up there. He's definitely in the top 10 of featherweights right now.
Mm.
Just looking back earlier in his career when he lost to Samir Munamini, that's the kind of fighter that Selby will lose to. It's a guy who's not gonna put up with his boxing and is just gonna do weird stuff in there, just be unorthodox. A guy like Donaire, who there was actually rumors that they would fight last year, that's the kind of guy that Selby would be troubled by. A guy who's not gonna concede to a boxing match.
Yeah, I think most of the other people in the top 20 would trouble him.
Notice how I said top 10 and you said top 20. I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, BoxRec has Selby as number 9.
Yeah, TBRB has him as number 8. So, yeah.
I don't think that's not accurate.
It is accurate based on what he's done and who he's beaten. But
no, I don't go by that. My eye test, who I think from just what I've seen, I'm going to throw the records out. I think Selby is at around 10.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree to that. So, I mean, working on BoxRec, I'm looking at the minute, they've got Lomachenko in 12th with Lee Selby in 9th.
Well, first of all, BoxRec is crazy because Lomachenko's number 1, clearly, with his 3 fights.
Yeah. I know. There's a level of subjectivity to it. So you've got Sonsona there. There's some good people in the teens and heading towards 20.
Here's the ultimate question, okay? Does Selby beat Gradovich?
No,
Yeah.
Is it close?
probably.
Okay. See? That's all I have to say about that. And I wanted to jump onto something. This is just happened recently, and we weren't planning on talking about this. I'm gonna read you guys something, and I'm gonna take out some names, and you guys tell me who wrote it.
Right.
I've thought long and hard over the options which have been made available, but none of these options are enough to get me motivated. My promoter has done a great job in creating these, but unfortunately the opportunities in the division are limited. I said at the time when I would fight on that I would need the right fights to motivate me. This is not a question of money. In fact, these offers have been for great purses, but it is about motivation. After all, if you aren't going all the way, why go at all?
Santa Cruz.
Cotto.
So who said this?
I said
Or-
Cotto. Yeah.
Stevenson?
Nope. I need big events to make me train to get me to the standard that I have been used to presenting my fans with. I said I would
Mahrez.
no. I said I would like
Chavez
nothing
Jr.
more.
Who is this?
Who is it?
So yesterday Mikkel Kessler announced his retirement.
Frotch. Who is
No, Mikkel
Kess-
Kessler.
Yeah.
So Kessler's career's done. It makes sense. There really were no fights for him.
No, he'd reached his ceiling and
Yeah.
proved to everyone he was a great warrior. And I think at some point he'll get Hall of Famed, probably.
The thing about that is the top 10 in the super middleweight division. Kessler still beats half of these guys.
Yeah.
And it's
But like his point is that they're not big enough events,
yeah.
right?
He could do Sturm. Sturm is in the super middleweight division now. I can see that fight being a decent enough fight. Now, I think Kessler, he knows how good he is, and he knows that he'd wipe the floor with Sturm. And that's not enough to get him up. Like, I think Kessler needs a fight that scares him
Where does that fight happen, though?
in Germany.
And that's going to go to the cards, you know it.
Yeah.
And it's Sturm.
I see the point you're making. Yes, very interesting. I think that that's not a fight that is enough to get Kessler's heart racing,
Yeah.
Yeah,
unless he
well,
fears being robbed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think he's done all he probably can in the division. You know, you're right. He will beat a lot of the super middleweight up and comers because he is that good. But he's not got much to gain for it. I think that he's done everything. He's proved everything to himself and to everyone else that he's wanted to. I think.
so let me just jump in here because this is like exactly the time that a boxer should retire, right? Everybody complains that these fighters fight on for too long. Like, I
Mm,
think he's making a really smart decision here.
yeah.
Let me
I
read
You
think
this
it's
know,
next part.
go on.
He says, I need big events to make me train, to get me to the standard that I have been used to presenting my fans with. I would like nothing more than to avenge my loss against Andre Ward and also to have the decider against Carl Froch.
Yeah, they're the only two
yeah.
fights that I would want to see him in now.
If you're Andre Ward, why don't you do that fight?
Well, because Ward has said that he didn't Ward come out and say recently that he wants a tune-up fight just because he's been off for so long?
I think
Yeah.
Kessler's a tune-up fight.
Well,
No.
well, for
How
Andre
dare you?
Ward, it's hard to. For Andre Ward, there's a lot of even great fighters that he may, handedly beat. But that
Mm,
for him personally, for his mindset, he doesn't want to face somebody that dangerous
no.
coming
Ward
off
wants
all
to
that
fight
inactivity.
Jay Leon Love or something.
Yeah, he wants a legitimate tune-up fight, and I get that, but you can't expect HBO to pay for
Jay Leon Love, that's a car crash of a matchup.
it.
Uh, I had that. I actually wrote about that fight and how it was one of my most anticipated of the year, but I deleted that.
Good.
No, it's a little sad because Kessler's last fight with Froch was a fight of the year contender.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who goes out on a fight of the year caliber fight? Who says that I've had enough with boxing after a fight of the year
Yeah.
contender? And with so much left, this isn't like Mickey Ward, who was never going to beat, a top 10 guy after his last fight, which I think was a third Gotti fight.
Yeah, I think it is a smart retirement. I mean, we
Yeah.
all know how often those retirements get unretired. But yeah, I think if it's not Ward or Froch 3, then fair play to him.
Yeah, so we're nearing the hour mark, so let's start wrapping this up. So I'm gonna
Yep.
ask you guys a bunch of quick questions in just 30 seconds each. Give your response, and maybe I'll chime in when I have something interesting to say.
All right.
All right. So the first question: is there anybody that can beat Nicholas Walters at featherweight? He's rumored to fight Gamalier Rodriguez on the Crawford tentatively versus Algieri card. Anybody that beats Walters at featherweight?
Lee Selby, obviously. No, I don't know. No, I'm going to go with.
All right.
I'm not. Lomachenko's a great fight.
It's a
I
great fight,
don't.
but does he win?
Uh, I mean, Walters is so big. It's tough. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that no one out there could beat Walters at featherweight. I don't think that's the case. I think he put on a dominant performance against Donaire, and really that's his best and real signature win. That's not enough for me to say that he completely dominates the entire division, though.
Right. I think one of the things that is the most one of the most enchanting things that a fighter can have in where they really can convince fans of something is the power. It's the ultimate convincer. It's the ultimate
Right.
thing that gets people behind you. And so far, I'm impressed with Walters, but not completely. I
Yeah.
haven't seen a complete package from him. And the Donaire step was a step in the right the fight was a step in the right direction, but I'm still not there yet. Like I was never sold on Mares. I was never completely sold on Donaire, and I'm also not sold on Walters. You know who I would be sold on if they suddenly started to pull things together? I'd be sold on Jason Belize, however you want to say his name.
Why? Why him?
Uh,
What's special about him? Like, what makes you think? Why? What have you seen from him that you'd consider yourself sold on? I guess.
well, he would have to make some steps. I think that there's a
Yeah.
foundation there it just screams out like champion. The foundation. I'm not talking about like his actual skill and what I've actually seen from him. There's just a foundation there where he looks like a guy who will gut out wins. In the same way, Timothy Bradley, you look at him, it's like, yeah,
Right.
that's a champion right there. And I can't really tell you his jab will stop anybody. Moving on to the next question.
Yep.
Groves and DeGale versus the Durrell brothers. Tag team match later in the year. Eddie Hearn's trying to put that on. Who wins?
Simon.
Actually, first, actually,
madness?
can I this question's irrelevant. I actually want to come up ask you guys a different question. Groves and
Yeah.
DeGale, what's their tag team name gonna be? Because the Durrell brothers are the Durrell brothers. What's a good name for Groves and DeGale?
Oh, jeez.
Someone's looking it up. Who the hell are the Durrell brothers?
No, I know who the Durrell brothers are. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't have a good name. I don't have a good name lined up for him.
No,
This isn't a good question. You guys weren't
I
prepared
don't
for.
reckon. No, we're not smart enough to think
No,
of
it's
promotional tag team
it's-
names for
yeah,
Groves and DeGale.
it's a good question. I just can't. I can't think of something witty about him.
All right. Well, am I wrong to say that Groves and DeGale both take losses against the Durrell brothers?
50-50.
Okay. Now, which fight is 50-50? I think one fight is going to go one way and one fight's going to go the other way.
Yeah, I agree. I think Groves would struggle and DeGale would pull it off.
Yeah,
So
I'd
if
agree.
it's
I'd agree with
Groves
that.
versus Anthony Durrell, we both like Anthony to beat him. And DeGale versus Andre Durrell, we like DeGale to beat Andre Durrell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I feel comfortable with that.
I don't feel comfortable. I think both Durrell brothers are the favorites, but I like DeGale's chances far more than Groves's.
DeGale's
Absolutely.
smarter. Groves will
Yeah.
do something dumb and then continue doing something dumb and then lose because of said dumb thing.
And then say, "Wait a second, I'm actually not knocked out right now. I'm still. Why did you stop the fight?"
Do I look unconscious to you? Yeah.
Is Golden Boy seriously going to allow Santa Cruz to fight Rigondeaux?
I'd say possibly if the money's there, which the money's never there for a Rigondeaux fight. So no.
I totally agree. No,
You know-
because of course it won't.
Yeah, I mean, if the money were there, I would say yeah, because I think Golden Boy really needs to lend some credibility to Leo Santa Cruz, who has been losing credibility rapidly lately, over the past, say, year or 18 months. So I think from a promotional standpoint, they definitely need to bolster him with the fans. There's nothing better than that for hardcore fans than a fight with Rigondeaux, but the money's not going to be there for it. And it's just the risk-reward ratio, just like Golovkin. Again, risk-reward. And it's those fighters are tough to find fights for against top-level opposition because it's just not worth it.
So Santa Cruz is with Al Heyman. So until we hear that Al Heyman's on the job here, I don't think we can really believe anything. But the one thing I'm thinking is, do you think Al Heyman is going to allow Santa Cruz to take almost a year of punishment from the fans for these easy fights where he throws 1,000 punches and doesn't stop the guy, or stops the guy and it's just like, forgettable? Do you think he's really going to allow us to forget about and to disregard Santa Cruz that quickly?
Are you seriously asking whether we think Al Heyman will be okay with letting a fighter not take a fight that needs to happen at the detriment of their fan base? Is that a serious question right now?
Are you seriously asking me that question?
Yeah, it was
Al
not
Heyman
rhetorical.
totally
Yeah.
okay. We okay with
Because
that?
you know where I stand on this.
Right.
That
You
was
think Al
actually
Heyman
his
needs-
idea. He came up with that idea. He pitched
Well,
it.
Who pitched it?
Al Heyman, he was like, yeah, don't take those fights. Have everyone annoyed at you. That is fine. Signed.
It worked. He did it with Danny Garcia. He did it with everyone else. And I actually think that he may not fight Rigondeaux, but Santa Cruz's next fight is going to be a real fight.
Right, because your philosophy on the whole thing is that Heyman's cleared all these guys that saw fights. Now the NBC deal's on. He's going to start stepping up the level of competition because he needs to draw on ratings. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking about Leo Santa Cruz
Mhm.
and you want to draw ratings, you need him in a tough fight because he's just lost so much credibility.
It's not going to be that tough though, is it? I don't know. I think it's going to be quick. That's
Rigondeaux
if it's going to be someone from that like roster of people. I think Quigg is the one that he's going to get.
I mean,
that
that and if you're a fan and if you've never seen Scott Quigg fight or not much, that is the most entertaining fight that we can hope for. Of the top super bantamweights out there, Quigg is a top one. And just to say that a little more, the 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 wild card here is he fights Tomoki Kameda, and that is an all-out action fight that I don't think anybody would pass on. One thing though, Al Heyman reminds me of Michael Corleone, where he's in the movie. I think it was Michael, where he's got all these people out there who he does good for, and there's a point where he says, "All right, now it's time that I call in my favor to you." And I think that's what Al Heyman's done to these guys over the past year. It's like, I get you paid, take care of you. I'm gonna buy your mom the house if she needs it, whatever. But when I call on you, there is no you show up and you do it. And I think Guerrero doesn't want to fight Thurman. I don't think.
That's actually a really interesting concept because what he's done is he's got these fighters in positions where they can't say no to him because he's given them so much. Like they do legitimately owe him a lot.
Doesn't this completely
what he's
fit the
done.
Heyman narrative too?
It does, like the evil villain narrative. It kind of does. Like
Yeah.
that's not the narrative you were thinking of.
No, I was. It is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I'll take the evil out because who knows? I mean, it occurs that way, but I don't know if it's really evil. We'll see in the end.
Well, it is kind of the guy pulling all the puppet strings, at least, right?
Exactly.
Like,
That's exactly what I
yes.
was getting to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Last question, guys.
Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. Is Briggs really getting the Klitschko fight? He says he is.
No, I can't. I just, it would be dangerous to his health.
Yeah, I think let's go, champ. I think it's absolutely possible because Vlad's at a point. There's no real standout people that he needs to be fighting. If you're Klitschko, there's no. I definitely need the. He'll want Wilder because he'll want the belt and he'll want to unify. But
Right.
short of Wilder, I don't think that Briggs makes more or less sense than him fighting anyone else, really.
I could see a little bit of fan backlash from the fact of like what has Briggs done to deserve the fight recently? Are there other heavyweights out there that have been trying to rise up in the ranks
Yuri's
that deserve
won
a
2
championship?
eliminators now
Yeah.
and still not got his fight.
Right.
But notwithstanding that, Klitschko could fight 3 in a year, 4 in a year if he really wanted to. Like I don't think they're big intense camps for him. So yeah, I wouldn't be bothered by it happening. I wouldn't be super. I'm happy. It would be fun. That'd be a fun little event. So
I just want
it's
the
entirely
promotional
possible.
build-up.
Oh yeah, that
You know
would
what
be
I mean?
fantastic.
I would love it. Like it would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'd be very willing to see some champion. It'd be good. Yeah,
Yes.
I like it.
I can see Klitschko at a podium doing some sort of press conference and Briggs isn't there, and somebody raises their hand in the audience to ask Klitschko a question, and they take off the mask and it's Briggs, and he starts screaming at him. I think it would be just the best build-up that you can have it in a heavyweight fight, maybe excluding Tyson Fury.
Yeah. No, Tyson Fury has to be involved in what you're gonna describe as the best press events when it comes to heavyweight stuff. I could picture Briggs literally being fired out of a cannon. Like he will be fired out of a cannon into the ring. Like they'll have a net in the ring to catch him. And Shannon the cannon, bam, fires the cannon. He shoots into the ring, lands cleanly. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, so I don't think that it's out. There's people saying that could never happen. It'd be ludicrous. More ludicrous things have happened. That's a fun fight. There's not really any strong push is, yeah, Klitschko should probably fight Wilder, and yeah, Klitschko should probably fight Fury. But if he takes a Briggs in between those, I don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. I just think it's unlikely. But
His
I love-
his persistence,
I
media
know.
relevancy, and his utterly free schedule. He'll fight tomorrow. He'll fight next week. He'll fight in 3 weeks. You pick up the phone and tell him it's on. He's going to clear his schedule for that. So I think that those things combined give him a really good shot of actually pulling it off.
So if Klitschko got the urge to want to fight Briggs at 2:30 in the morning tomorrow, Briggs will probably be there.
Oh yeah, he's already waiting. He's outside, camped up.
He's actually
That's what
under
I'm
his
thinking.
bed.
I mean, the other thing we've talked about earlier, heavyweights get injured. If Jennings gets made and gets injured and has to pull out within the last couple of weeks, you can guarantee Briggs is going to be there with bells on waiting to take that place.
Oh, you are absolutely right. That's very astute.
What if Briggs is backstage at Madison Square Garden on the night of Klitschko Jennings? He
definitely
punches
will be.
Jennings, knocks him out, and walks out in Jennings' ring gear. Is that the best case scenario for this fight?
Without
It
a
is
doubt.
now.
Yes, without a doubt. Oh my God, that would be brilliant.
And we couldn't put it past Briggs. I think if we actually told him that idea, he would probably write it down.
He'd give it some thought, yeah.
Oh yeah, he'd apply for press credentials so that he could get in there. Yeah.
Get backstage.
Get
Yeah.
backstage. Yeah.
All right, guys. You guys got any predictions on the Super Bowl?
They're not going to, at halftime, announce Mayweather Pacquiao, as I've seen some people suggesting.
Correct.
That is the best prediction. Let that be the prediction.
I mean, I heard that Katy Perry was actually going to sing it in a song during the halftime performance. I don't know, though. I don't think it's happening.
Is she the halftime performance?
Yes.
And did she not
Do you guys know
do
about
the
her in
intro
Britain?
music? Yeah. Did she not do the intro music for Pacquiao a couple fights ago?
She did.
Against
She did?
Trios?
Oh, conspiracy is
The
on.
stars are aligning. Oh no. This
Roar.
is
If she sings Roar, it's on.
We'll know what that means.
That's
a
a
sign.
confirmation that this fight is
Yep.
happening.
We'll know. They don't even have to say it. That's all that needs to happen.
You guys know her music, right?
Yeah.
So which song does she open with?
I'm aware of her music. Musically, I'm not big on pop, so I have no idea.
I'm just trying to look up the title here.
You know it.
Yeah, just
California Girls. There we go.
California Girls.
Yep.
The Super Bowl's in Arizona, so
So
I don't know
so
if you wanna
like a
start with
Keith
that one.
Thurman. No, it'd be like a Keith Thurman kind of thing.
God. Keith Thurman is not going to knock out Guerrero.
Yes. he
With
is.
that said,
Yep. Oh, but he will. So we could end it there.
yeah, we'll be back next week